Jason and Kim, can you hear me?
Should I say his name? Can you hear us?
Yay, yay, yay. I can. Hi.
No, we can't hear.
Can you hear me?
I'm going to stay as an attendee so I can see. Settings, audio.
Oh, wait. Let me see.
Why is it?
This should be able to talk.
Okay, there's Tara. Can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Awesome. Sorry about that. At
That's
the
okay.
11th hour, here we go. Oh my goodness. I tell you what, hold on, let me just let
It looks like we have another
Ribbon
person in here.
in.
Hi, Gary. Welcome. So, do we still have no chat then, right?
Okay.
Were you able to turn on the chat for today or no? It says it's disabled.
Hold on, I'm still working on that.
Thank you to those who have already popped in. We're just fixing some technical things real quickly.
Let me see here.
Oh. I know, chat. Thanks, Gary. Gary, we're trying to figure it out. Thank you.
Let me try one more thing here. Everyone. Now let's see. Can you guys try it again and see if that worked?
No chat.
Okay, attendees can chat.
Oh, I've got it where I can at least chat to people from the.
Okay, try.
Two hosts and panelists.
But change it to everyone. Everyone.
Oh, we got chat.
Yay, we did it.
Tara, there's our win for the day.
Oh, I tell you what, I'm like over the moon right now. Okay.
Right. Thank you to those who joined us. We'll get started here shortly. We had some difficulties where to get going.
Oh my God. Absolutely. Happy Friday, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this Friday, this second session of our installment around student agency. If you were with us last week, you were able to see how we were, Kim and Jason built the foundation, right? And gave us kind of the why behind it. So being so important to empower our students to feel like they truly can be a part of the innovation in the classroom. And so today we're going to get into the how we do it, get into some of the nuts and bolts around small group learning and all of that. So I'm super excited. Again, my name is Tara Tibbs. We have Jason and Kim with us again today for the second installment. Just real quick housekeeping. I'll make it really fast. I saw that we had some folks who did, in fact, get onto our community and post there. So thank you. I did, in fact, make sure that I awarded a community post person too. So hopefully you've either received or you will be receiving very shortly. If those are if we have folks from last week who are with us again this week. But I am doing an incentive, so a challenge, if you will. And so it does require that you definitely participate and engage. This digital workshop format is super informal in the sense that we want you to use the chat feature, come off of mute. I'm going to unmute everyone very shortly so that you can feel free to pipe in and with your reflections, comments, questions. We want it all, okay? And so at the end of our session, I will be drawing names depending upon how many folks we get, 1 to 2 names, and I have a $25 gift card for you. So hopefully you'll stay through the end. But if not, I understand schedules vary. We definitely will be recording, and it is recording. I had to double check that. The session's recorded. So you will be able to find this session in the event link. And so just real quick, and then I promise I'm gonna stop talking. I'm gonna show you, if you would like to participate in the drawing at the end, the challenge, then I'm gonna show you where you can go. You're gonna come into the community, and this is obviously our community space. If you come into the link for our session this afternoon, you can comment here. I will see them. I will continue to refresh as we go. And then those names, for those who comment, reflect within the community space, that's who I'll add to my wheel of names. And that's in fact where I will draw from at the end. Okay, so now that we've gotten our housekeeping items out the way, I will allow Kim and Jason to take over. Again, thank you for your participation. Kim and Jason, thanks.
Thank you, Tara. We're excited to be back today on a Friday. We have our whole office to ourselves today, so we changed our background a little bit. But today we are going to recap what we did in our first session and then really get into that small group learning, just like Tara just talked about. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, I guess, and just a thing to note for those of you that haven't been in Zoom before, in where you do the chat thing, if you change that to everyone, that will make sure that everyone gets to see the post, not just the host and panelists. That way, when we're doing our chat later, everybody will get to see the responses. But yeah, we're in session 2. I guess we'll introduce ourselves first, right?
Oh, yeah.
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 So my name is Jason Hoppel.
I'm Kim Rangel.
And our title is Instructional Technology Specialist. We both have the same title. We're 2 of 10 total for our district. We're a district called Chandler Unified School District in Arizona. We got like 40-some thousand kids, something like that. And so it's a pretty big district, and we have a chance to support our teachers, which is awesome, K through 12, all the way with the rollout of all our tech tools, and especially the view board rollout, which has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, so we each are paired. So Jason and I are paired, and we each have about 10 sites that we support. We're in a 2-year rollout of our view boards. We're in year 1 of 2. So it's been really fun to see that usage as they start to get into it, and as schools become more comfortable. And that's really where this idea came from, of our sort of series roadmap, is that our goal is to get students up at the boards. We heard from many of our sites as we went in to talk to them about how it was going. The principal was like, the teacher's doing great, they love it, but we really want our students up using the board. And it's, so much more than just a teacher tool. It can be an amazing learning tool for the students. So that's where we kind of gathered this from. So last week, we started with building the foundation. So before you can get up and have them up at the board, we have to start small and teach them the tools of the board, when to use it, how to use it, why they use it, and making sure that they're taking care of it and being appropriate with it, and just really slowly building those, their literal toolbox with the view board. And today we're going to dive into a small group learning, specifically things that could be done at like a station rotation, and talking about what makes a good small group task.
It's always a challenging thing.
Yeah, small group tasks are not all created equal in terms of their setup. So we're going to really talk about that setup of the task and making sure that it's one that is complex and can really deepen their learning. And then eventually next week, we'll talk about taking those small group activities and bringing them back as a whole group and consolidating the knowledge, addressing any gaps in knowledge as they were out at their stations, doing their work as groups, and really bringing it together at the end there. So that's where we're headed. We are at number 2 on our little map with our Finch driving the car, which are my favorite.
Yes. I know she loves to throw the Finch in there. She loved that graphic right there. That's just done with that grouping tool right there, which has been awesome. And then she locked it. Okay. So kind of our goals today, we should talk about, it's the second session of it. So last time we reviewed, just talk about being explicit with those teaching and just like we do with any other thing. Today's goals are talking about those good instructional practices to help build that student capacity for small group learning, because small groups can either be loved or hated by people. And a lot of it is really just how we set it up as teachers. And a lot depends on the group you have too at that time. But we're really talking about those good practices that need to be thought through when you're using it. And then also now developing a plan to encourage the student use of the view board in small groups, because the view board itself lends itself perfect as a small group kind of station rotation for the kids. The teacher doesn't have to be there guiding it. The kids can be there themselves working together on it. So that's kind of what our goal is today, going through some different activities and talking about it and things along those lines. Okay, let's get in. We thought it'd be, before we dive in, we thought it'd be interesting to start with just kind of a Likert scale rating here. We thought it'd be interesting to ask you guys a question about what are your perspectives and feelings around small group learning in the classroom? Anywhere from 1 to 5. And you can kind of take the question and kind of interpret it how you want. Are you not a fan of small group? Love it. Do you avoid them? Do you try to use them all the time? Okay, so that's a good sign so far, or I guess it depends. And it really, sometimes, I know my answer depends sometimes on the subject matter that day. Or sometimes with our group too.
Yeah.
Looks like we got some 5s and stuff there. Okay.
And I always loved small group learning as a teacher. It takes sort of the onus off of me and puts it on to my students that they're in charge of their learning. And it's something that I can, pull groups aside. So I always really liked it. And it seems like our attendees also love it. So I'm going to pose you a second question for this. What do you think your students' perspectives and feelings are around group work? And if you can, and with the rating as well, give maybe an explanation as to why they might feel that way. And let's try to see if there's maybe a different answer. It doesn't have to be. Hopefully they do love it. But take a minute to think about that and respond in the chat as well.
I know this is a push our district's going for, is doing small group learning, but sometimes students aren't a fan of it. And they've had some bad experiences with it.
I don't prompt them yet, Jason.
Oh,
Let him
I wasn't
respond.
supposed to prompt, sorry.
Yeah, okay, love that, Gary. Once the expectations are taught, yes, right? And what Tracy said in there, some are afraid that they're going to have to do all the work.
She must be a high school teacher.
Right. When it's done right, it's good. And when it's done wrong, it's frustrating. Absolutely. And so we're going to talk through some of those things. I would say that I taught AP literature and composition for years. And I think that my population of students would probably be a little bit around where what Tracy said is they're afraid they're going to have to do all the work. They're going to be the one that's pulling the group along and everyone's just holding on at their coattails. And,
trying to get somebody to do something.
Yeah, and so it can be frustrating, as Andrew said as well, that if the expectations aren't there and the accountability is not there, that it can be really frustrating for them. And I think the other thing that I heard from students a lot is they don't like to be graded as a group. That was oh gosh, I don't like that aspect. So
in elementary, it really, they like to talk in elementary all the time. So a lot of times they wouldn't like it at the beginning because they don't just get to do whatever they want, depending on how you set up your small groups. But as they started to understand the structure and things like that, because you have to teach all that in elementary, then they started to, most of the time, love it. Okay, so let's dive in, right?
Yes.
Okay, I guess dive in farther.
Okay, so this is like one of my favorite slides that I even brought a prop with us. So a lot of this research they've done on successful small group learning, I pulled from Visible Learning, the sequel, John Hattie. So I'm sure that many people are familiar with his research, and going through his own meta-analyses and other people's research on what makes successful small group learning. And I kind of boiled it down to these 6 things, and I'm going to talk through them a little bit. So the first one I'm going to start on the left is cooperative, right? That they're using cooperative learning strategies, and that the group size is small. And I'm sure you found that in your own classrooms as well. Like the size of the group can really make it successful or totally derail it. If there's too many students in one and they don't have the right roles and that sort of thing, you find that some kids just get to kind of hang on to those coattails.
Well, and that size could also depend on the task and the
Yes.
group you have too. So it might change. It's not like a set number, I don't think.
Yes. And then the other next one we have up there is structure. That typically they work a bit better when the task is more open than closed. That there's not necessarily a right answer, and they really have to grapple with the responses and their critical thinking, and that there is a success criteria for individuals and the group, that they're still being held accountable, which is another cloud coming up, but they have a clear understanding of what success looks like, both individually and as a group as a whole.
Helps with the frustration behind it too.
Yes, like they know what's expected of them, and they know how to what they need to do in order to succeed. The next one is scaffolding, as we do with anything else in our classroom, right? The group work experience is important, that they are practicing on a regular basis, that they've had practice with it, with group instruction or group work, and that they have the sufficient knowledge, confidence, and motivation to tackle deeper learning. And this one I think is important based off of the first session that we did of just building their basic tool set of how to use the board, versus just throwing them up there. And I'm pointing this way because we have a view board over here. Sorry, I just realized that I was pointing that way.
Not throwing at me.
That once we say get up there, if we had sent them with some really difficult content with no background of how to use the board, that might be really frustrating. So just that scaffolding is really important as well.
Yeah, they can't learn the tool and the content at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it could, but it probably would be
frustrations happen more.
Yeah, exactly. And we want a productive struggle, not just struggle.
Yeah.
So the next one I think is obviously huge is accountability. That each student is accountable for their part in their group, and each student is accountable for demonstrating their own learning. And I think that this is often lost in a group setting, and the way that we set up our group tasks is that some kids get to sneak through and pass by that they've learned the material when they really haven't demonstrated their learning, that maybe someone else in their group demonstrated their learning. So that accountability piece, interdependence, working together rather than alongside each other, that they have to work together in order to be successful. And that success depends on collaboration and mutual dependence. That we don't just have a group task to be like, okay, you do this part, you do this part, you do this part, and let's all copy each other's answers at the end.
Yeah.
Because that's sometimes what it looks like, which has its time and place. But when we're setting up a situation like this, making sure that they are mutually dependent on each other in a positive way.
Not punished, like the grading thing. Yeah.
Right. And then the last one is, I think one of the most important ones is collective efficacy. And okay, you're going to move that out. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I was uncovering that. I'm just having fun with the pen tool here.
So I had so many good quotes from this. I really filled up this cloud. So these are things that are built not necessarily in the structure of your task, but just in the culture of your classroom. Seeing oneself as a learner, appreciating processes of thinking and ways of understanding of other students. That it's okay that someone disagrees with me, and that I can understand your perspective, even though I might not agree with it. That they're social problem solvers. We talk about the importance of like those soft skills in the classroom. Like that's huge in terms of group work, and that they are empathizing with each other. versus maybe getting frustrated if someone doesn't understand something, and that there's a sense of trust. And so this is something that we'd love to hear how you build that sort of collective efficacy in your classroom culture. And that might not be with a like academic task at all.
Yeah.
But just
Probably most of the time not.
Yeah, I mean, it can, but we'd love to hear how you build that in your classroom on a regular basis. So we're going to take a pause and have you do that in the chat, or if
yeah, even if you want to come off mute.
Yeah, if you want to come off mute and tell us, we'd love to hear from you in some way, shape, or form.
Well, what people are just having a chance to process or whatever, and you can even come off mute and interrupt for sure, just like the classroom. One thing I think that I've noticed with people with small groups is they try it once and it doesn't work, and then they quit, which is amazing because, like, us as teachers know you don't learn things the first time, but they can be really frustrating. I think it's just that important thing if this is a progression of like, it will start getting better and better throughout the year, or years, depending on how long you're with the kids. Got a quiet group. That's okay.
Well, you didn't give a ton of time.
That's true. I know.
Wait time.
Wait time.
I will say, in terms of scaffolding, right? Going back to that cloud up there, I'd often do like before I would allow them to go out and have like a group discussion or anything like that, that I would sit in like a fishbowl model, like with my students, and be like maybe the facilitator or something like that. And I would show the rest of the class, this is what I expect your discussion to look like. This is what it should sound like. And, you know, these are the roles that you're playing, and helping them really visualize what that is.
Well, if you have those ideas, you can throw them throughout the webinar too. And we're going to be like referring to these terms throughout like our thing. So our next thing is like, we're talking about like, why are some, oh yeah, for sure. Tracy says that it begins really at the start of the year, build relationships with students to create a culture of modeling, lots of opportunities to speak in class. Yeah. And even watching that teacher mess up in front of the class. I think sometimes teachers are afraid to mess up in front of their kids. But honestly, I think that makes the class more comfortable when they see, oh, the teacher just messed up or did the math problem wrong or circled the wrong verb.
And valuing everybody's voice in the classroom. I think that's awesome. Lots of opportunity to speak, and that equity of voice across the room, and modeling that it's important to hear from all your students. Yeah.
Well, as you were saying, probably in the secondary classroom too, because they're not as like open to speaking, probably for just that age group too.
Yeah.
Fear of being judged. What we were saying that there's like really some great features of the view board that lend to perfect small group learning. And we're talking about small group learning. We're thinking of like almost like a station rotation thing of using the view board as a station rotation. I know that's something, like I said, we're pushing big time at our district, is using stations and being able to work one-on-one with kids, or kids to work better together. So we really thought that the view board's perfect because of that multi-touch. Many kids can be manipulating and working on it at one time, and it's not just one person doing it. And that's why that scaffolding the skills is really important at the beginning. The middle one we talked about as one thing really nice is I can create a station or an activity and real quickly just duplicate it, just using the in the page manager thing, using that duplicate, right there, the duplicate feature. I can make that thing show up multiple times so each group has their own one. Or as Kim had mentioned last week, using it as the background. So it's like a 3x3 square. So it's so easy to, just like making a copy of a worksheet, I can make a copy of a Canvas right there. And then probably one of the most important things is that that third one of really giving the option to demonstrate learning. There are so many things, because it's not just a piece of paper that they're working on in small group. There's so many ways they can do it, whether it's throwing pictures in or watching videos or doing discussions or erasing each other. Like, there's just so many different things and ways. It kind of opens that door, especially with that infinite canvas too, being able to just work outside the box literally and be able to do all kinds of different activities.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on that, Kim?
No, I'm ready to jump into our activities.
So kind of the game plan for what we were talking about, thinking about today, is really just showing a bunch of activities, like different activities, and then kind of looking at the activity and seeing, okay, what elements of small group learning does this have? Or what else, how do we change the activity so it has those beneficial elements of small group learning? Because you can have the most fun activity ever and it might not lend itself well to small group. And did we already talk about like how the teacher is to set up the task? I think you talked about that, right?
Yes. So,
yeah, like
get on it
we're
again, Jason.
So yeah, even if we did, that's great. But again, I think it's so important of like how the teacher sets up the task at the very beginning of what did you do to scaffold or talk about that so the kids are ready for the task. They're very clear guidelines. It's very explicit. So let's go ahead and let's introduce the first one here.
Yeah. So the first one, oh, you want me to do it? Okay.
You gotta switch to the select tool though.
Okay. All right. So the first one is hexagonal thinking, and this comes out of a curriculum designer. Her name is Betsy Potash. I don't know how to pronounce it, and I apologize to Betsy. My apologies. But this is a discussion activity that can work with a lot of different subject areas. We have an example here with Shirley Jackson's The Lottery, which is a short story. And I forced Jason to read it, and he was unhappy with me. I think it's excellent.
I'm okay with it now.
Yeah, okay. So this one you put, I've just created shapes. So I created hexagons and put in different elements of the story, either thematic or literary elements, and put them each on their own hexagon. And each side of the hexagon represents a connection to another piece. So in the upper right, and I know it's really small on your screen, so I guess I could probably zoom in on it, can't I, Jason?
Wow.
Look at me.
Using that pan tool.
Yes. So here I have the group roles. So I've set up that structure and making sure that it's sort of scaffolded out that accountability piece. So we have a facilitator who sort of guides the first part of the discussion and keeps the time, the connector who explains and defends the connections that are being made between those sides of the hexagons, quote master who is pulling in evidence from the text to support the argument that they're making of these connections, the skeptic, the one that sort of questions assumptions and encourages alternative perspectives, and then the creative collaborator who poses new connections, interpretations, or even maybe they're adding additional hexagons. So I'm going to go ahead and reset here. So the way that it works is that you would start with an idea, and which one do we want to start with, Jason? What do you think? I think we did tradition.
Yeah, let's do that.
Oh, and I need to move back to my select tool. Rookie move. Select tool, and I would pull out the tradition here. And then we would have a discussion of like, okay, what do we see connects to tradition, Jason?
I think in this one, definitely part of it would be suspense.
Okay. What connection are you making there, Jason?
Because the whole point of this like story, without getting too much into it, is like you're waiting for a name to be called, and it's a tradition that they do every single year, right? Isn't that what it is?
Yes.
So it's like can add suspense, but then to me, like it also that totally links to fear.
I like that.
I'm trying not to give too much details for those that are going to go watch it or read about it later.
So do we want to put fear with also with suspense? Do you think?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. So you can obviously get an idea of how this works. So that the goal of this for our students is to give them the strongest connection between this, but they have to then question what connections are being made and tying in the text. And the great thing is that I would imagine no two groups will have the same hexagonal shape once they're done with this discussion. And we'll talk next week about how we could compare those and bring those together as a whole group to really solidify our learning.
Yeah, because even like using the software on this one, like being able to switch to the pen tool real quickly and be able to like write our notes about why you connected it would be great discussion points for like later on.
Right. Or even our quote master bringing in specific evidence from the text and being able to write it on the canvas and make it into one really cool collaborative space and demonstrating their thinking.
Like a large mind map almost.
Yeah. So then we have at the bottom and the bottom right is those sort of elements of small group learning. And this one I think hits on a lot of them, but you don't have to hit on every single one in each activity. But did we want to ask?
Yeah, we were kind of just thinking like, if you guys are looking at this activity, how are those elements of small group learning evident or seen in this task, or what needs to be maybe changed about it so that it's seen better? And even you can talk about how the view board does help this small group learning opportunity. Kind of just want to get your thoughts on it. We have a few thoughts, but we're kind of want to get your guys' thoughts first on those elements and what you see here.
Awesome. Andrew said cooperation is great here because it fosters conversation around a large work. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. It's a little bit more exciting than just a normal discussion. Oh, and that I think is vital.
Not just one answer. It's so open to so many different connections. And I think that each new student gets to bring in their own perspective, and that is valued here as well, and not seen as a negative.
But I think kind of the group roles for me of like ELA is not my strength. It's math. ELA is her strength, which is funny. So like diving into an activity like this for somebody that's not comfortable in ELA would be like nerve wracking. But if I was like given a role, like I only have to look for this one thing, then it would take a little bit of the pressure off me.
And even if I find this with a lot of discussion strategies, even if there's maybe a little bit of inequity of people speaking, that as long as they have a role and they can demonstrate the learning, they can still learn a lot from their peers speaking as well. So I do think that it does have a lot of the components, and Tracy agrees with me. That's so nice. Thanks, Tracy.
So I guess just dive into a second one.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so jigsaw it.
Oh yeah, for sure. How would you can you explain how you might jigsaw it, Tracy? Do you mind jumping off mute? And
that's a lot of pressure
I know,
through you.
hear me? I'm unmuted, but I'm not sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I love the hexagonal thinking. And once you have, all of the roles that are in each group, everybody does and has that discussion. And then you pull those roles from all the groups together and have them discuss where they are and what their group discussed. So it's almost like a backward jigsaw or expert group or something like that. So
I love that idea. I think it's great. I think this is a good idea for our webinar next week.
Well, I know, I was just gonna say, like she just led into our webinar next week. Tracy, where are you doing next Friday?
Come back and visit us. I love that idea of splitting off and saying and showing then the differences between each group. The same activity, we had the same role, but we had totally different answers. And what a cool way to demonstrate that learning. Thank you for sharing.
Gallery walk, and then even like that. So like most classrooms only have like one view board. Well, that's where taking this little snapshot feature down here, like for a gallery walk, well, maybe it's a virtual gallery walk where I could take a snapshot and upload that to Google Classroom.
Oh, cool.
And then there would be a virtual gallery walk for us right there, which is what we're going to really talk about a lot more next week for sure.
I love that idea.
Okay, let's just go ahead and let's look at another activity here. So this one is more geared towards an elementary perspective, and this is using the interactive element of the view board and some different features here. So this one is just like a simple area perimeter introduction with kids and having them just think about it. So they're using the snapshot tool to save their work, but they're basically using the embedded browser here. So that to get that, let me go to select tool here. I almost wrote on it. To get to the embedded browser, you can see we just click on it, and then we just click on that link right there, and it opens up the embedded browser right then and there. So there's no need for them to go and have multiple computers open. But as you can see here, they're going to do the activity in here and explore these two questions. Is it possible for two shapes to have the same area but different perimeters? And then a second question, is it possible for two shapes to have the same perimeters but different areas? And they kind of just an open-ended just to kind of prove their thing. So let's just go ahead and get into how we would do this with kids here. So I'm going to click on that link, and it's going to open up that embedded browser. For those of you that have view boards, these FET activities are awesome for the view board. We're just going to click on this explore. And obviously this would be, I would need to preempt this activity with the kids because they should have seen the activity before they get in here even further. And you can switch over here to like two different things. So I could get in here and say, okay, let's go with the same area, different perimeter. So I've got an area of 4 here, and then maybe like the kids are going back and forth and hopefully working together. Again, that's important for it to clarify it. And like on this one, I'm going to make the same area. And obviously like this one, I can't do the same shape. They've got the same shape, everything here, but can I make it so it's different perimeter? So there we go. So you can see like it there, we've got where it's same area, different perimeter, which kind of answers the question, helps us prove it. So we're going to have them use the snapshot tool here, which is awesome because then, it even makes a nice screenshot noise. And I'm going to go ahead and minimize that because now they've got the screenshot here and they can actually save this off on the side here. And then we can even write notes. So we can use our infinite canvas thing, and they can get over here and just write notes for it and like show their thinking about why they did it and prove their thinking. Obviously the picture proves it, but now they like maybe explain why that works or different things like that. This would be a really, it's very interactive for probably the second or third grade group as they're learning how to use that. But yeah, what do you think? What's your different thoughts on this one? Actually, that could either go to Kim or you guys.
Yeah.
What do you guys think on this one? How does it work with those different elements of small group? This one takes a lot more teacher on the forward end to scaffold and make sure it's successful for the kids.
Different little cloud icon on this guy. Oh, it's up in it's up in the upper left.
The cloud, yep.
Right there. So you either talk about the different elements of small group learning that you're seeing, or just the activity itself. Thoughts, improvements, different ways you might do it. Thumbs up from Tracy again.
Okay, that works.
Love it. Oh yeah, of grabbing the snapshots to show your thinking. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and it's nice, and that snapshot tool I think is going to be is going to be that key for like the consolidation of learning. What do we do next with it? We've done all this work now. How do we do that? How do we save all this stuff? And I think, I agree. It's definitely very open-ended because they can prove it kind of in different ways for sure. And I think for me, one problem I could see with an activity like this is with younger grades, if not giving them explicit roles. So maybe that's something, depending on your group, you could divvy up or watch the kids and say, hey, everybody has to be part of something, or you have to take turns touching the board and doing it and manipulating it. So maybe that would be a really important thing too.
Where everyone does a different shape. Like, all right, you're going to each try to do a different version.
Yeah, for sure.
So that we can test out all theories. So maybe the first two get up there and do the same area and perimeter, and then we want to be able to see variety. So maybe
it's gonna be a lot of discussions, and there will be there shouldn't be as much fighting because the numbers are right there. It does that activity for you right there. So like she said, maybe each kid in the group can have to make all of it. So maybe that group decides, oh, there's 4 people in our group. We're going to make 4 shapes that have the same area but different perimeters. That would be even more of a challenge.
I like it. Okay. Ready for our next one?
Yeah, let's
do it.
Let's go to another one. As you can see, we're just kind of throwing some different ideas out here, but it's really more goes back to those different like elements.
So this one, I will preface it with I don't think it's overly open-ended, and so that idea of making sure that the task is more open. This one does have a definitive answer, at least in my opinion. So this one, just practicing with paragraph structure, and I have taken 2 paragraphs. I've color-coded them and split up each sentence of the paragraphs, and the students would be asked to come up and decide where the sentences should go organizationally, which color should go first, of looking at the paragraphs of should green come first in this essay or should blue go first in this essay, and then they could drag and drop each of those items over onto sort of our paragraph diagram over there, structure, and then they'd be asked to like write a collective group introduction and conclusion for this paragraph. And then on the left, they could label like this is the topic sentence, and this is the supporting statement, and this is where we provided evidence. If you were working on a specific paragraph structure that you wanted them to use.
Well, and I think to support what you said, that's kind of like, although the end result is a very closed one kind of set all, the discussions to get there could be really powerful. Like, how do we do that? And because they're going to disagree for sure at some point, they're going to completely disagree on it, but that's okay.
Right.
And that's just something important. It would be those great discussions to get there. So like, Kim, what would be first here?
Now you're putting me on the spot of what I remember it being first. Now I don't remember. It's kids often look a bit like their parents. It's that blue one.
Oh, there we
Yep,
go.
there you go.
See, this is why she made it. I mean, the nice thing about something like this is that you could take this and do multiple grade levels. Like a simple,
Oh, yeah.
I could do this with a kindergartner, but it would be more probably words or pictures about putting the pictures in order
Right.
On that regard. But and then Tracy said like as if each person was in charge of like a sentence or something like that.
Oh, yeah. I like that idea for roles.
Oh, Andrew, perfect. The negotiations is where the learning happens. I like the word negotiations.
Yes.
Like I'll give you that if you give me that. Yeah, that would be some great things. But we thought this is a simple one to do with the My View board, just a simple typing a text or even bringing a text in from online and just breaking it apart into different text boxes. That would be perfect. Yeah. And even if you had, like she said, like the paragraph already written, and then their group has to come up with a introduction and a conclusion, like depending on the time you have in there.
Yeah. And Tracy said such a great idea for not only modeling organization, but also supporting their why. And I think that that's a great point too. And especially when next week talking about like, well, this group has it in this order and they have the blue paragraph first and this group has the green paragraph first. Let's talk about why, and having them defend their positions of why they chose that organization, I think is where that learning happens.
Yeah, it really gets them up and moving too. Cause like in this case, the only tool they have to really know how to use is the select tool. They just have to be able to select and move something. So a kid that's a struggling learner might really enjoy an activity like this. I don't have to have a lot of like other skills. I can just focus on the reading part of it. Just almost like old school dragging a piece of paper and putting the pieces of paper in order. But this one, we can take the snapshot tool and save it for later for those discussions. Okay, let's just keep on diving in.
Yeah.
I think we have a couple more that we're going to talk about. This one, just a real simple circle map, but it can really open the door to a lot of different things of like if a second grader's just second or third grade in general, just learning about the number 12, well, time to show your thinking. What are some different ways that we can demonstrate 12? And this one, honestly, could be the kids just taking that pen tool and having all kinds of kids getting up there and doing it. And maybe they're doing, the first thing they do is 3 times 4 or something like that. And they simply think that, or 6, it'd be easier to write, of course, on the view board, 6 plus 6, or even like I was playing around with this earlier. I thought, what if it'd be fun if a kid thought, let me get that table in there and let me do a table that's 3 times 4. Because maybe, and then of course they're going to say, well, it's too big. Well, let's just shrink that down. I just took the words too. See, I messed up my own thing. That's okay. Let me move that out of the way. So like, there we go. Now we've got an array of 3 times 4. So like, there's kind of different ways on this one. It completely opens the door to, the circle maps. It just kind of is replacing that need for the big butcher paper thrown out on the floor. But again, it's so nice to be able to save this later.
Yeah.
And this one you could easily duplicate.
And give it a chance to be creative and maybe bring in images. And this is where, going back to our first session, our series of teaching them the tools of the view board so they know that there is a table in there, right?
Yeah.
Like if they didn't know that existed, maybe they wouldn't have gone there. But if they have those tools in their toolbox, they can represent it in so many different ways.
Yeah, like I like the image thing that you mentioned. Like they could use that magic box, and that could be, they could go find an image and that use that drag to copy of like, let's use the little duck or something. And let's make 3 groups of 4, or let's make 12 ducks, or even 12, or maybe even like 14 ducks and cross out 2. That would show 12. So there we go. We're just taking.
You're really getting.
That's right. I love it.
Creative.
So we just thought that would be fun. What are you guys' thoughts on things that maybe needed to be changed about this task? Because it's just a simple circle map. Does it need to be changed? Do you think it meets some of those good elements of small group learning? What would we need to teach ahead of time so they're prepared for this? People are still thinking, and that's okay.
We're just gonna type. No.
I know, that's true.
Plug it away.
Every student we need to. That would be a good way to hold that accountability, right? Everybody has to at least add 1. And the fact that if you say like, hey, everybody has to add 1 different thing, that means they have to be really reflective and like pay attention to what their neighbors are doing too.
Yeah, and working together, that they're not duplicating. Even if you had them like label which one they did too, so that you knew as a teacher that like, which part they contribute
Oh yeah,
to.
for sure. And then it said the Canvas tool becomes essential. Yeah, they could easily get in there and make that much smaller to do that for sure. I agree. You can't really do that. You can't enlarge your circle on a piece of paper. And the kids get so frustrated when it doesn't fit in the circle map too, especially in the elementary level. They for sure get frustrated with that. Well, I think we have, what, one more? Like, let's look at our last activity here.
Let's do it.
So this next activity, just a simple kind of, we just thought of very simple activity to help, like with a math thing here. So the idea behind this one, and the kids love the dice. So the idea behind this one is they will actually roll that dice, and then they'll write the number here. Okay, we have a 2, and then let me roll it again. Oop, this one we have a 3, and then this one again. We have, oh, those are all small numbers today. I'm gonna be like a kid.
You don't like it.
A kid would roll it again and say, I want a bigger number. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the cool thing with this one is you might be thinking like, well, how did you set up those dice? That was kind of just fun. You can change what shows up on the dice here because I wanted to ensure that it was a number from 0 to 9. So I went into the settings here and just made it so I knew 3 dice that it could never get over 9. So I thought that would be a fun way. Roll 3 times. And then this is so the thing with this activity is it's a very targeted skill. And as we're doing a couple things on here, we're wondering, like, is it okay to have such a targeted activity in a small group session? So think about that, why I'm just doing this. So like the kids would get up here and then do our expanded form. We have 200 plus 30 plus 5. I need to get better with using my mouse on here. Put a number here that like, oh, this is 126 is less than that. And then, 236 right here.
You want to price this right on it.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're taking 1 over. So what do you guys think? Is that okay to have, like, obviously we can give kids different roles. Like everybody has to fill out one of these or something like that. But do you think it's okay to have such a targeted question or a targeted activity would that be still a successful small group?
Or what limitations might it put on students or on their learning maybe?
I like Tracy.
Yes.
Oh, and Garrett, just straight yes. Yeah, it really just depends too on like what's your learning goal.
Yeah.
If my learning goal is to see do they know how to do the different numbers, and honestly this might be a good one to have them learn how to work together and take turns. Like everybody has to take a turn. And yeah, that'd be fun. Certainly very. Oh, and then, yeah, there you go. And I just love different tools on here. One thing I do love about that infinite canvas is like, hey, let's say that group gets done really quickly. You can use that to really have it set where, okay, let's use those dice now. And let's just do a different activity here with the same one. So using that, it's all right there. And all I have to do is duplicate the canvas. And the nice thing about this is all the kids are going to get different numbers. So can you imagine the talking points that we'd have later on?
Yeah, and then they can't go back to the previous group and look at like, well, what did they put down? So they each get unique things if you have it duplicated. So,
but you know what we thought would be really cool is like even with this one, let me go back and hit that reload. We thought maybe for like small groups, what if you had made the kids leave their answer up there, and that next group that came there had to look at theirs and say, okay, what do you think? How did they do? And then you did the activity yourself. So it kind of gave them a precursor. Obviously, for the first group, you'd have to do one as a teacher and make those key mistakes. But that might be a fun activity. And I think somebody said in the chat that it would be, oh, yes, roles would be vital for this one.
For sure.
Ooh. She said have them change the custom die. That would definitely be thinking for sure. Oh, that'd be fun. Oh, wow. We're going to have, okay, we're going to be playing with that later. I love it. So we kind of thought it'd just be important to like, let's go back to those elements one last time because we feel those are key to it. You want to recache them?
Yeah. I won't go through all of them again, but making sure that you're cooperative, that the students have to work together and that sort of interdependence piece as well. That you have a structured task. I think that came up a lot in the chat of like making sure that everybody has a role and that there's a success criteria and that they're accountable for their own learning as well as to their group, scaffolding their skills of the board and with the content so that, again, we can have some productive struggle, but not just struggle. So not just scaffolding the tools, but scaffolding the content and making sure that your task is is appropriate for what they're doing at that moment. And then that collective efficacy is one that you can see with each of the different examples that we gave. Different ones would need a higher level of collective efficacy than others, right? Like I think that the hexagonal thinking, and maybe because that's just my favorite one, but I think that one requires a lot of collective efficacy. You have to be able to listen to other people's perspectives, disagree, and challenge other people's thinking, but still trust that they have the group's success at heart. And again, those things are not just built in your content, it's built in the culture of your classroom. So encouraging that on a regular basis.
Yeah, I know we were in it was a 6th grade classroom, and we were encouraging the teacher. She was nervous about letting the kids get up there, and she was nervous that it would be a distraction. And I was telling her, like, if the kids are up there all the time and they know they're going to do the task, yeah, it's going to be a distraction at the beginning, but that's because like any new toy they get or any new tool they get, it's always going to be a distraction. But the more they get up there and use it, and the more it's thrown and just becomes a part of the classroom, it's going to be just like another tool in the classroom, and just a very good tool, by the way, that will really expand on that. So that kind of leads into our next webinar, which some of you guys kind of stole our thunder on here, but that's okay.
No,
I
think that also added to what we had planned. And so I love your participation today. Thank you so much for participating in the chat and on the mic. So again, session 1, we built the foundations with just the basic tools and introducing that with the content you're already teaching, so that it doesn't take time out of your day that you already don't have. Don't have time. And then today we really focused on what a successful small group task looks like, and how we can incorporate the view board in doing that. And
through those centers and stuff.
And then next week, our goal is to say, okay, now we have all this group work up with, 6 different groups of hexagonal thinking. How do we bring that collectively back together and have a good discussion and address maybe misconceptions, or maybe they didn't quite get to the point that I really wanted them to get to. And so I would address that then, and being able to bring those back together, also obviously using the view board, but consolidating that student learning in a larger group setting. So I think we have.
Yeah, we were thinking like just kind of a fun way to end it. You can either post in that community that Tara was talking about earlier, or even just come off mute or post in the chat. But we thought, okay, kind of a couple different questions, or you can answer either one, as what is a station activity that you would like to use to encourage small group use of the view board? Again, not about the teacher leading it, but the kids doing it, the kids being in charge. And then, or what is a change you would like to make in how you structure and create small group learning activities? So I think like one thing I would want to work on is, how do I encourage that accountability for each kid's learning? I think that would be my goal personally to try to work on. Any thoughts from any of you guys?
So I've done before where I've used self-checking spreadsheets. So of course they use the flip over to the windows. And the reason why I do self-checking spreadsheets, I have them, it reveals a picture as they get the questions right. So anywhere I am in the room, I can always see how they're making progress. But to divide it up so everybody gets turns is the questions are numbered, and they have to draw like the numbers on popsicle sticks, and they draw 2 out. They can trade 1 time so that they get some choice in what they have. And that way everybody has to answer their questions.
I love
That's
that.
awesome.
Yeah, I love giving them that choice too. That's great.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks for that idea. That's amazing.
And it says, I'm keen to use. Oh, that was a really good, somebody posted about using the Learning Center idea in PDs.
Oh, yeah.
That was actually something we had personally thought about doing in a couple of PDs, is how do we do centers within that and do the same learning style with our own teachers, which is so funny. Sometimes we lecture at our own teachers, but especially since you only have one view board in your classroom, how do we create centers where everybody has a chance to come up and use it and be part of it and have that same skills we're trying to teach with kids. Awesome. We think there's a lot of good ideas in the chat about getting the participants up. Would love to do this type of things with teachers. And then a simple think, pair, share could work too. For sure. I just want to say thank you for being here today. For sure, we were really excited to put this
Mhm.
kind of series together because, again, we just want to encourage the kids to use the tool.
Yeah.
It's not just for that one teacher in the room; it's for the kids to get up there and get interactive and have great discussions. So hopefully, you guys saw some benefit and really had some good discussions. Thank you so much for your interactions. It was awesome. I'm pretty sure Tara wants to come on in and do one last thing before you guys escape.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jason and Kim. That was awesome. I really appreciate the interaction that happened. So good to be able to hear you all's voices here and also see the chat activity. That's really the goal. And with having, excuse me, a platform such as this, where it does allow for that space for those really good, authentic discussions. And I'm very I believe this will continue. So I always want to encourage us to keep the discussion going. Like I said, you do have that opportunity to pop on into the community or wherever you are on your socials to comment and respond. You'll see our links on different social platforms. Comment there, but again, it's to really keep these authentic, engaging conversations going, because this, you guys know, as educators, this is what we do, and we do it really well, and that's why I love being a part of an educational community and having that space to do that. So I'm going to come over and check once again I was checking throughout to see if we have any activity in our within the community, and we might not, and I'm not going to even hold that pressure over you guys. Instead, I will give an opportunity for you all maybe to reflect on what on what you've heard, and you can pop your reflection into the community at any time, and then I do, and if we don't get any reflections there, what I'm going to do, I thankfully it's recorded, so I have the chat activity here. So I will definitely make sure I reward someone based on either what I see in the community, or if I don't see anything there, I will make a decision based on the I'll pull a name from our attendees who are here to the end.
And
And
Andrew had a good question too about how do you get to the community? And that
yes.
would be on myviewboard.com.
Yes. Yes.
And you can get there.
Let me share that path really quick. Thank you for that question, and my apologies. In all of my housekeeping stuff I did not actually show the path to get there. So let me do that really quick.
While she's pulling up that too, we thought we'll go ahead and post our OLF file, the file that we used today, on that community, and get that posted. So those of you that are interested, you can kind of
play around with it.
Yeah.
If you want to take one of the activities, make it your own, or whatever.
Tell us what we can do better.
Yeah,
for sure.
We love that too.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, I'm not sure why it's not wanting.
Are you pulling up?
You guys aren't seeing my screen yet, are you?
No.
It's not wanting for me to show. Oh, there it goes. It's just delayed. Definitely having some technical challenges today. Okay, so to get to the community, so some of you all might arrive at here's our education page. So if you go to viewsonic.com /edu, this will take you to our education page. You can find the community here. And this is one of our programs that's currently running, our Refer a Friend program. This allows you to earn have an opportunity to earn really cool gifts by referring friends to the community. It also talks about our ambassador program. Not sure why it's not scrolling at the moment. But anyway, there's links from these pages here Here's our ambassador program, which is a nice opportunity for people who are pretty savvy with our ecosystem, an opportunity to kind of brand yourself within your district and within our global community as an ambassador. And again, as you aspire to different levels within the road to ambassadorship, there's cool ways to earn some nice swag. And this is our certification program through our PD department. Through all of these banners, there's a way to join the community here. I'm already a member, so it takes me directly into it. But if you come here, for those of you who are a part of my view board, you can get to it from your landing page on my view board, and it's here. Okay. And that'll take you into the community as well. And then you by default will come into our regional forum, USA and Canada. We are on this, this is the session link. When I click on it, this is where I can comment. Okay, so it allows you to add a comment here. You can just come up to, I started one, so you can respond to that one. So hopefully that addresses your question. And again, I do apologize for not showing that in the beginning. I'm going to refresh one more time, and I know we're getting really close to our time. And so when comments come in, and again, take a moment to kind of reflect, or if you want to go ahead and post what you posted and what you put in chat there, that's fine too. Or again, you can post on any of the of your socials. Any other questions before we end our session this afternoon? I see something else in the chat. Is that for me? Oh, good. You got in. Perfection. Glad to hear it. Okay, so again, I am going to, and I make you this promise, I'm going to check back within the next hour. I'm going to check, and then I will put your names. You can see I've already started putting names into the wheel of names here, and then I will spin to see who will be our winners. I'm going to pull 2 winners today for the $25 gift card. Sound good? I make you that promise. And so those gift cards do come to you via email. So you can rest assured that you will get, and if you are our winner, you will get an email with your gift card attached. Okay.
And then make sure to add Tracy Weaver to that
Thank you.
wheel too. I think there were 2 Tracys on.
Yes, I did see there's two Tracy. So I'm going to make sure I took a, let me take one more screen grab of my list. I do try to make sure it is most accurate. Okay, got it. All right. Thank you again. Thank you, Jason and Kim. We hope you can join us for the final installment of our of this session around student agency. That will be next Friday, same time. You'll see soon. We'll have a link to register for that one. And again, thank you. Happy Friday. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.